Om Vang me manasi pratishthitam mano me vachi pratishthitam aviravirma edhi vedasyama ani stha shrutam me ma prahasihi anenadhitena horatran sandadhami ritam vadishyami satyam vadishyami tanmamavatu tadvaktaram avatu avatu mam avatu vaktaram avatu vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. It's interesting that in the Veda, they still consider the speech to be the power of its own, the word. And the mind is the power of, or the capacity of consciousness to focus on any chosen movement or expression of consciousness. So they distinguish between the two. Later, we don't see this anymore. We think that the word is totally dependent on the mind, and in the mental structure it is so. But not in the Vedic vision. In the Vedic vision, the word is independent. It has its own power, its own modality of functioning. Consciousness expresses itself through it. And that expression can be fixed or can be focused upon by the mind, or it can go unnoticed. So mind can be busy with its own things, doing some other things. So the mind can choose the word on which to focus, or on the modality of expression of consciousness it wants to be. So in a way, these two are complementary powers, which are mentioned in this Shanti Patra. Yes, my word is established in my mind, and my mind is established in my word. That means that my mind is not traveling away from this luminous word of expression of this deeper, higher consciousness. So it fixes itself, it fixes consciousness upon it, my outer consciousness upon my inner expression of the truth. And in that sense, they go together. Today morning, I was thinking about this unique perception of the word as independent power of self-expression, which may be taken by the mind or not. So our mind is free to choose, so to say, because we have free will. We can be anything we want to be. Yes? We can focus our mind or our consciousness with the help of the mind upon any expression of consciousness. And there the word comes into being, the word as the vibration or the power of self-expression. Make sense? It's a bit different view on it. Okay, let's come to the hymn. So we stopped with Indra, I think. Yes, number 3. We didn't go far, truly speaking. Yes, because we looked into Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahmanaspati, Brahaspati, because of that. But now we move forward. What else is Agni? Tuvam Agne Raja Varuno Dhritavratah. Dhritavratah is usually Varuna. Tuvam Tvam Agni Raja Varuno Dhrita Vratach, Tuvam Mitro Bhavasi Dasma Idiyach, Tuvam Aryama Satpatich, Yasya Sambhujam. Tvam Aryama Satpatich Yasya Sambhujam, Tuvam Amsho Pidathedeva Bhajayuch. So it's quite interesting. In certain places it is Tvam, in certain it is Tuvam, has to be kind of deconstructed for the sake of the meter. In poetry, it is a normal thing. If you read Shakespeare, it's always, sometimes you read it adding one syllable, sometimes less one syllable, yes, for the meter's sake. Here, the same story. O fire, thou art Varuna, the king who holds in his hands the law of all workings, and thou art Mitra, the potent and desirable Godhead. Thou art Aryaman, master of beings, with whom is complete enjoying. O Godhead, thou art Amsha, who gives us our portion in the winning of the knowledge. Now, these are great Godheads of the Veda. They are all Adityas, as you see. Varuna, Mitra, Aryaman. Bhaga is missing, but Aryaman is kind of projecting Bhaga as Yasya Sambhujam, who has full manifestation of delight. And then Amsha. Amsha is the already supramental Godhead, which manifests our individual being, soul. Amsha means portion. Let's go one by one. O Agni, you are King Varuna, whose vows are firm. Dhrita, firm, vratach, vow. Now this vow is a big word. Usually in the classical Sanskrit it is vow, but it is from root vrit, to repeat the same action. So it's like a habit of some kind, or repetition, or doing. Sri Aurobindo says, who has in his hands the law of all workings. Interestingly, he goes deeper into the meaning of the root. Usually we would translate vrata as the vow, something we are supposed to do or vowed to do. But here he goes deeper and says the law of all workings. And he is, as we know, yes, because Varuna is representing the divine being, the purity and vastness of the divine self, Sat. Varuna is Sat. So you, O Agni, are King Varuna, king of Sat world, yeah? Of the vastness and purity of the divine being, who is firm in his action, who is determined in his being, literally. Dhrita vratach. Tuvam mitro bhavasi, and you become, interestingly, the word bhavasi is used, and you become mitra. Dasma. Dasma, actually skillful in action, in application of consciousness. And we know that Mitra represents the divine consciousness from root ma, to measure. You are the power of measuring the being. The infinite being is to be measured and to be shaped into different forms and details and properties and events and representational happenings. So all that is done by Ma, root Ma, measuring, shaping, forming. From here, Matri, mother. Mother is the shaper. From here, Maya, the illusion. It's not illusion, it's the creatrix consciousness. And Mitra. Mitra is the Godhead who is measuring out from the immeasurable the forms of the being, the creator. And you become the creator, skillful creator, who knows how to measure out of the immeasurable, the meaningful beings. Idiach, to be sought with adoration, literally. It's participle futurum passive voice. To be sought with adoration. Actually, it is Agni who is sought with adoration. And this distinction between Varuna and Mitra is fundamental, because Varuna is being and Mitra is consciousness in action. So it is Mitra who is to be sought with adoration. It is that Mitra later in the later language means friend, Mitram in neuter, friendly, because consciousness is always friendly to us. But being Varuna, with his purity, is very intolerant of anything which is going wrong, which is impure. He will punish it. And we know this, that Varuna is feared most by Vedic rishis. Vasishtha, Maitra Varuni, Vasishtha was the follower of Varuna. And he always asks him to be merciful, to forgive us our impurities in the being, because the Varuna is the infinite being, purity of the divine existence, yeah? Basically immortality. So forgive us for us being not fitting for your measurement, so to say, to Varuna. Your measurement is too high for us, the divine existence, the purity and vastness of the divine being. So he is intolerant of the sins and impurities. But Mitra is the opposite. He is easily forgiving, easily changing, reshaping. It is the power which is to be sought with adoration. It is that flame of knowledge, of awareness. He is much more friendly to us than Varuna. Tvam Aryama. Aryama is the third on the line. It is the divine tapas, the divine power, Aryaman. We find him only in the Veda. Later he kind of disappears. He kind of joins the party of Varuna, Mitra, Aryaman. Aryaman is never mentioned separately, only once or twice in the Veda. Usually he always joins the party of Varuna, Mitra, Aryaman. He is always in this triplicity. And even when Varuna and Mitra are mentioned without Aryaman, they imply that Aryaman is there. So if you see this hierarchy, Sat, Chit, Tapas, and then Ananda, this is the hierarchy of these four great godheads. Sri Aurobindo calls them the guardians of light. Varuna, Mitra, Aryaman, Bhaga. So Sat, Chit, Tapas, Ananda. They are the transcendental godheads. Instead of Sat, Chit, Ananda, it will be Sat, Chit, Tapas, Ananda. And Chit, Tapas, so Aryaman is a part of Mitra, as it were, in his power, in his divine power. If Mitra is pure awareness and awareness which shapes the being, then Aryaman is that actualization of the being by Mitra. The power itself is nothing but actualization of the being. Power is the being in a particular form, in a particular perception. Is it not so? You think deeper. So what is power? Power is something we spoke about this, which is pushing. Yes. Let us take a primitive example. One hand pushes another hand. So for the hand to push another hand, what do we need? What do we need for this power to be manifest? We need the being in its form of the hand, yeah? And that is in the form of the hand. The being is already Mitra and Varuna there. Because Mitra has to perceive the infinite being as the hand and give it particular shape and particular awareness. And then Aryaman is moving that being in a particular form which Mitra chose, and that is the power. And interestingly, he is called Satpati, which fits very well to this idea that he represents the being. He is the Lord of all that is, all the selves, all the Sat. Sat is actually what Varuna represents. But he is the Lord of all Sat because once Sat is shaped by Mitra, it is that particular power which represents the self. Who has Yasya Sambhujam, who has a total manifestation of delight, whose delight is total, Sambhujam, Yasya. Very simple phrase, which means a lot. Because once being, consciousness, and force are manifested in a particular shape, there is a manifestation, a particular aspect of the infinite being, that movement generates delight. That particular application of force or revelation of power is the delight in itself. So that's why we have Satchit Tapas Ananda. Ananda is that beaming, that emanation of infinite delight, of perception by the consciousness and manifestation and force of this infinite being. So here we are complete with four great kings, the guardians of light. Sri Aurobindo has the whole article, the guardians of light. To Vam Amsha, and then we jump to Amsha. We bypass Daksha, because there is Daksha, Amsha, and Surya, three godheads afterwards. There are seven Adityas. So we bypass Daksha. Daksha is the oneness of the supermind. We bypass it and we jump into Amsha, and most probably because Amsha embodies both the oneness and the many, the one and the many, because Amsha is the part, portion of oneness, but portion aware of itself as separate from oneness at the same time. So you are Amsha Vidathe in the winning of the knowledge. That's how Sri Aurobindo translates. In the discovery, you are Amsha. Bhaja, you, who gives us our portion. Bhaja, you. Again, Bhaja is Bhaga, the Godhead. So we receive Amsha, the portion of delight, and enjoyment of this manifestation, in this manifestation from our soul, from that spark, which is Amsha, from our psychic being. Amsha is the psychic being formed for manifestation, that very projection of Anandamaya Purusha in the form of individual formation. And it is through that that it determines what we are here to experience in this lifetime, in this reincarnation. Bhaja, you. You are Amsha, O God, who shares the portion of bliss in the discovery of truth. This is my interpretation, which I find very meaningful in a different way, that every discovery of the truth which is done by our soul is the portion of bliss. Well, it's meaningful, psychologically it's meaningful. All right. If you have no questions, we go ahead. So all these are Agni himself, yeah, in action. Then who is else there? Yes. So this is the very confusing part of the Veda, that they are so easily identifying Godhead with Godhead. Now, because in our mindset, we would like to have them separately put, and distinguish how they act, interact. And by that division, we, in the surface being, we perceive the reality as a fragmented reality. But here, it tries to explain to us how the whole thing works. And that consciousness is being built up by these kind of revelations. And we feel the tension or the widening of the scope of our perception, the tension of the surface being, which is not capable of really comprehending that Agni is the divine being in its purity, that he is the divine consciousness in its perception, that he is the power which is leading all the beings, and he is the one who has the complete delight. He is also the soul, individual soul, who shares the portion of delight in the discovery of the truth. It is through him, by him, and with him that we do it. So he is the divine in action, in manifestation.
Vladimir?
Yes. Deep.
Done question maybe. So the 4 austerities and the liberations that Mother and Sri Aurobindo talks, it's come from this?
For austerities and for liberation. It's a powerful, yes, a powerful article by the mother, actually, on an integral education. We know this. I even translated this long ago, and it was published. I translated it into Sanskrit for austerities and for liberations, because we wanted to publish in 4 languages for Auroville. So, yes, if we look at it closer, how it could be, what are your thoughts? How would you identify these for austerities with these 4 guardians of light? What is your association? Yeah, go ahead.
Love, knowledge, beauty or harmony, and I don't know, right? But I'm not able to actually which god then goes into, but it's just there, like I'm just feeling that somehow
4
these 2
and
are
4,
connected.
yeah. Most probably they are. I just do not know, because you see, in the 4 austerities, Mother speaks about mental austerity as a control over speech and so on. So the austerities of the feelings, emotions, of the mental austerities, we need to look into it more. Yeah, Varuna is austerity in a pure sense. It's a purity of the being. Yeah? The rest, of course, you can identify the word with Mitra, because consciousness, but it is also consciousness power. I would not go that route so easily, identifying one with one. I would rather look into the processes, how it is happening, and we will find these 4. Because in every action, we need to have a being, awareness of this being, its application, Aryaman, its emanation of delight, which will be shared with others, because only through delight we share our being with other beings. That Ananda is the link between all ourselves. Otherwise, we are totally dispersed. Yeah? We are not one. Only in the bliss we are one. So through the bliss, we come to the oneness of the being. And that's why Bhaga is from root Bhaj, to share. From here, bhakti is bhakta, sharing actually. Because oneness is maintained through delight. And of course, the separateness also is maintained through suffering. So when I suffer, I shrink away. When I'm full of delight, I lean upon and reach out to join the party. It's amazing, yes, with such simple thoughts. Yes, I don't see it like for austerities to be one-to-one, but maybe we will come to it again. I have to revisit it and see how it could fit. Since you don't offer the solution, I thought you would offer. All right, some other thoughts, no? These are the highest transcendental godheads, yeah? Satchit, Tapas, Ananda, and then Amsha. Amsha is the individual framework for Agni. Tuvam Agne Tvashta Vidhate Suviryam Tava Gnavo Mitramahach Sajatyam Tuvam Ashuhima Rarishe Swashviyam Svashviyam Tuvam Naram Shardoho Asi Puruvasu. Tuvam Agnet Vashta, you art Vashtar, O fire, thou art Vashtri, the fashions and fashionest fullness of force for thy worshipper, Vidhate Suviryam, the perfect power. Tavagnavach, thine, O friendly light, Mitramahach, are the goddess energies, Gnavach, and all oneness of the natural kind, Sajatyam. So Gnavach Sajatyam, this is one term. Gnavach are the actually wives or Shaktis. Shaktis together with the birth or with the production of birth, with generation of being. You are. Interestingly, Mitra Mahach, which is connected to Mitra, or friendly light, he translates. But because he doesn't want to come to Mitra, but I think I keep it, or great in divine consciousness. Why I keep divine consciousness? Because it's the shaper of the being, yes? And as a shaper of the being, he is the one who actually brings to birth everything, you know, from the being. In the form Gnavach, Mitramahach, or you who shapes all the beings, you are the Shaktis capable of bringing to birth everything. So you see, it's another level of the same generation or creation or even procreation. And Mitra here is mentioned in passing. So Tvashta. Tvashta is the ancient godhead. He is one of the Adityas also, especially in the later literature. Tvashtri from Taksh. They connect it with Taksh, which I doubt, but nevertheless, originally it is the carpenter, the one who carves out of the wood the form, the murti, the world. From that original wood, he carves the form which can contain life. He is the first shaper of the body, of the physical body, which which grows, multiplies, is born and dying. Yeah? So all the forms of greenery, all the forms of animal life and human beings have the physical body. So the first physical body shape, first cell which could multiply was created by Tvashtar. In the Veda, he is known as the one who created the ladle, the first ladle he carved, which could contain soma. Soma is that ambrosia, immortality, amritam, which makes our life life. It is because of soma we live. Soma is that food for Agni to grow. Agni, as the divine power and consciousness, can grow because it consumes soma. So he created the ladle which could contain soma, hold soma. So material form, material formation which could hold the divine delight. And by that multiply and grow and live and evolve and develop. He has ribhus after him, three ribhus, three brothers, who were shapers of the vital, mental, and overmental, let us say, ladle or holder of delight. And he is fighting with them. He is very jealous that he could not continue his creation, and ribhus came into being, and they started to generate those other ladles or those other holders of soma in the vital, in the mental, and beyond. So this is quite interesting because we have to hold soma not only on the physical level. The physical, we start with physical, then we move to the vital, and then we move, there's the whole evolution to the mental and then beyond. And that has to contain soma, contain the divine ambrosia, ananda. And through ananda, as we know, we interact with each other. So this is the tvashta. And gnavach are those powers, shaktis. This is a Vedic word. Which even originally I cannot say where it is coming from. Gnu, quite interesting word, very ancient word, etymologically difficult to figure out. Used only in the Vedas, of course. You don't see it afterwards. So these are the kind of, we interpret it as those powers, the divine or friendly light are the goddesses, thine are the goddess energies and all oneness of natural kinds, sajatyam, that's how Sri Aurobindo translates sajatyam. Thou art the swift galloper and lavishest good power of the horse, tuvam ashu hema, you are swift galloper, rarishe, and you lavish, you grant or bestow upon suashviam, the good power of the horse. Suashviam. Ashva is horse. Suashviam, the perfect power of the horse. Thou art the gods.
I have a question here. Can I ask?
Yes, please.
So the Shaktis, would we say the Adityas and the Ribhus are the Shaktis?
I'm not sure. No, they are not Shaktis. They have their Shaktis. Varuna has Shakti. Every godhead has his Shakti.
I see. So they're not the same thing.
They are the same thing in action. Yes? Shaktis represent the being in action.
Okay. Got
So,
it.
yes, you are the actions of all the Godheads, yeah, or great in divine consciousness, Mitra Mahach, Sajatyam, together with their production, together with their power of generating beings, you are.
Mhm.
Vladimir,
So,
I have a question.
yes,
The gods are male and female, right? So,
right. Females are Gnavas, yes.
so maybe the Shaktis are the female goddesses?
Yeah, correct.
Oh,
Yes, this male-female issue is already in the Veda. Yes, absolutely. Males are gods, godheads, and females are Shaktis. Of course, in certain cases, Aditi is the mother of all the gods. Yes. But it's quite obvious, yes? Male is the being, self, and Shakti is the action of this self. It's as simple as that. Very logical in a way. So all the activities of Godheads, you are together with their production, Sajatyam. And you are fast in swift in moving and bestowing that swiftness and power, perfect power upon us. Tuvam naram shardhach, you are the, as Shabindra said, thou art the host of the gods, naram shardhach, and great in the multitude of thy riches, puru vasuch. So naram shardhach, you see, Nri is used as gods here. Sri Aurobindo is using it either man or God, soul, heroic power of man. It is that element of the divine within human beings which acts with courage and with power. And this is Nri. And that element we find in our souls, in our heroic souls, because they're hero souls. They came down into this darkness to manifest the divine. And in the gods, the same heroic power in them. We share the same light. Yeah? Nari is for both, for the gods and for man. So there is element which we both share. So gods are our universal powers, which we may call upon for our progress. So we invoke our universal powers of the soul. The soul is the ruler, and these powers are there to help the divine manifest. Yeah. You are Tvashtar or Agni, the perfect force for the one who introduces you in his life. Interesting, for the one who we need. For the one who introduces you in his life. So vidhate, it's an interesting word. Vidhat, it's participle present tense. But from root vidh. Vidh is worshipping, but vidh has a meaning of pervading, and also it is kindred with vidha, to distribute, to ordain, who introduces you to his light, his life, most probably. So this is vidhat. Sri Aurobindo translates who thy worshipper. Usually it's the meaning of worship. Yes, vidh, the one who worships. Worships, what does it really mean to worship? Means to remember and to bring into this actualized being in consciousness, and basically who introduces the presence of that being and force and awareness into one's own framework. Is it not so? So this is the worshipper. So I'm becoming more, how to say, technical in this way, introduces you into his life. You are the perfect force. So you are Tvashtri, the perfect force for the one who introduces you to his life. So once we introduce this power which generates or which holds the soma within the physical being, he becomes a perfect force for us. We can achieve immortality in the physical body. This is the Godhead who actually establishes the divine bliss in the physical body. These are your Shaktis, Tavagnavach, and kinship with them are great in divine consciousness.
And you do this by, Vladimir, just to back up a little bit, I'm trying to understand this concept of introducing in one's life, the Tvashtar, introducing Tvashtar into one's life. Is it through just pure awareness of Tvashtar you introduce? Do we have to just bring him into our awareness and be aware of his presence within us? Or is there any other form of worship?
I think there are many forms, and I'm sure that we can find our own form, like remembering him, understanding what he did. For example, what is this first life? When first life was born, nobody knows how the first cell came into being. Until now, we do not know. Our science cannot answer the question, how is that the first cell was born which could multiply?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows. Yeah? It's a mysterious event. They speak about some universal force, some lightning, some high temperature, maybe some carbon came to connection with something, and then there was an event which we call the birth of light, the cell. But we don't know. Truly speaking, cell is totally developed being already. It lives. Amoeba, if you take monocellular organism, which is the oldest among all, it has all the features of living being. It doesn't have organs, but it wants to communicate. It wants to move. It doesn't have legs and hands to reach out, but it lives, multiplies, and it comes into clusters with others and creates more complex organisms. But how is that possible that that thing lives by itself and can procreate itself, can multiply itself?
Did it come from another planet?
We don't know. Nobody knows. They say other planet because there is no answer here. Mm. Even I looked into the issue of water, because water is needed for this. Yeah, without water, nothing is possible. Even water, they don't know where it comes from. They believe it comes from cosmos somewhere.
Yes.
God, from cosmos. Everything from cosmos. So this is the kind of unknown somewhere there. Yeah? So don't bother us with questions. So we do not know. So according to the Veda, this is Tvashtri, the divine power, which created the possibility to hold life within the physical form. And that is the first monocellular organism, which could hold soma. Soma is immortality. That means that this thing can multiply, live in time. That is soma. So knowing all that, most probably, understanding the deeper meaning of our physical being, I think the mother dealt with it in agenda more than anybody else. She was dealing with the cell. An interesting observation she made that cell is immortal. If you take cell away from other cells, it will stay forever.
So it's a supramental manifestation.
Supramental manifestation is
In the agenda, she talks about the supramental light in the cell that expressed itself. She had the experience. She's talking to Satprem.
yeah, this is the major work she did, right?
Yeah.
Bringing light into the cells. The Satprem wrote his trilogy, and all this is about the work. I do not know whether it is supramental light in the cell. She says that our cell is made in such a way, I'm referring to that passage, where she explains that cell in itself is perfect and doesn't need others to live forever. And this is something shocking. The problem starts when it starts interacting with other cells. Then it becomes worn out, weary, losing its energy, and dies, becomes old. It is through interaction we have a problem. Within itself, there is no problem. It's when we start talking to each other and misunderstanding each other that we lose energy and become old and die. So all the problems are problems of harmony, as Shavina says. If we could establish that harmony in between ourselves, that delight, that ananda, yes, that bhakti, bhaga, which is connecting us all in oneness, there is the problem. So if we could make it flow, if the sacrificing can be full for all, everything is done for all, yeah, then we don't need to die and leave. Cells can stay. That's why most probably it was not enough what Vashtar created. Multiplying cell, they had to be vital, mental, and beyond their achievement of the immortality. So immortality is not only in the physical, it cannot be achieved in the physical without immortality in the vital, immortality in the mental being, and even beyond. All of them have to be re-established, and that's what Mother was doing. She created her immortal mental being, which is unheard of. Nobody heard this thing ever before. And her immortal vital being. These two immortal beings were created, but not the physical. With physical, she was struggling till the end. And then she realized that there is a problem with physical, that it cannot be easily transformed in one individual framework. It needs to involve all, because the physical is the gateway to the inconscient. So you can't change one physical. Individual physical cannot become immortal. And that's how the supramental issue comes. Yes? The supermind has to interfere and change the relations. Well, we are speaking about mysterious part of the future, what is waiting for us in the future. But it is already here in the Veda. Vashtar, the first one who created life in the physical form. And all the powers, Agni is also all the powers of the Godheads who are shaping the infinite being into the born in the body being, Sajatyam. He also is bestowing upon us the perfect swiftness of consciousness and power. And he is the host of all the Godheads and all the souls, having fullness of the riches of the wealth, whose riches are all around. Puruva Sukh. I translate a bit differently. Sri Aurobindo says, great is the multitude of thy riches. Multitude, Puru. I just put it into another context, whose riches are all around. They are all over, everywhere. The whole manifestation is nothing but that, Vasu. Vasu is the, as Sri Aurobindo translates it in another place, the luminous dweller within the substance. This is Vasu. This is the wealth. Luminous dweller within the substance. The divine within manifestation is Vasu. And he is Puruvasu. He is the one whose presence, the divine presence, is all over in all the creatures and beings all around us. Nothing is here not divine. Yes, everything is divine because of him. Knowing that, we can see the divine in everything. There is a very beautiful passage of the Mother. I will send you the link, the passage, where she explains how everything is the divine, but everything. And we have to learn to see that and to relate not to our superficial separated form to each other, that I'm Vladimir, this Vladimir, stupid Vladimir living there somewhere doing nonsense and so on. Or very clever Vladimir, clever, manipulating Vladimir, making jokes Vladimir. This is superficial look. But if we see that divine manifestation, that unique presentation in time and space of the divine, and search for the divine manifestation, that unique search, unique path, very different from anybody else, then we may appreciate differently this formation outside. Yes? We would not judge it so harshly, because that manifestation is ongoing process, constantly changing, and cannot be judged in its appearance. All right, I will stop here for today. We will come to Rudra next, and Maruts and Pulshan. There is more to look into. Each verse adds to it the whole vision of the Veda. It's the hymn which gives you the whole description of all the Godheads from the point of view of Agni. If you have any questions or want to share some thoughts, please go ahead.
Even in Savitri, in the dream twilight of the earthly real, where Savitri explains to Death about kind of this concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Savitri is the... Yeah, you can read the passage if you want, and it would be lovely.
Well, there are so many pages here that I have marked. I don't know from where to read.
Oh, well, whatever comes to your eye.
Well, one of the passages that...
Don't choose with the mind too much.
Yes. Why came it down into mortal space? A charge he gave to his high spirit in man, and wrote a hidden decree on nature's tops. Freedom is this with ever-seated soul, large in life's limits, strong in matter's knots, building great stuff of action from the worlds, to make fine wisdom from coarse scattered strands, and love and beauty out of war and night, the wager wonderful, the game divine.
Yeah. The shortest way to explain all this mysterious manifestation is the game divine, Leela, because
Yeah.
there is no other way to really say everything in one go. You know? And the whole Savitri is going so deep into all the elements. If you go the goddess of the little life, of the greater life, you will see how all that is being manifested step by step, how nature is working out, how those gnavach, those shaktis of the godheads are constantly in action, making something, connecting everything, making it work on each level, away from ignorance or from inconscient. We are all rising from inconscient, from totally forgotten being to partially aware being to more aware being. And that process builds up our bodies, our instruments. That is the evolution of consciousness, which is pulling with itself the instruments, the body. The body is being developed by the vital and mental forces behind it, which were introduced by Tvashtar first. He introduced those forces. He put consciousness into matter, and then it started to evolve and develop and become more and more this being, what you see in the screen, with the head, with the mouth, with eyes, brain, this being which can express that consciousness. More and more.
So the power of evolution is Agni. Is that what I'm
Right.
understanding? Mm.
Right. Without Agni, there is no evolution. I wonder, without Agni, there is no creation, I think. Agni is the creation. I mean, creation of the embodied self, the divine. Because there are other forms, like we have organic and non-organic matter. Yes, if you look into the animated and unanimated matter, unanimated matter is also animated by the movement of the stars, by the movement of cosmos. There is something going on in the stone also. You know? It can't be that there is nothing there. There is the fire, magma in the core of the earth, in the sun. There is a constant shift and movement of elements and atoms. And but this organic matter, which can multiply itself, live, be born, and die, embodies the spirit directly. And the spirit wants to express itself and builds a long process of evolution. We are preparing actually the new perspective series on entry and exit from this world. So the journey of the soul. And it would be interesting because we will look into the birth and death, those entry and exit from the reincarnation. And there, I will be preparing the presentation on Stanislav Grof and his work, Beyond Brain, it's called. And I forgot how it is called, his major work. And he examines the embryo life in the stages. And there you will see that embryo life has stages. First stage is oceanic, he calls it, because people in the deep memory, they were making drawings. So all of them were drawing about that they're sitting on the big fish and in the ocean, they are floating on the top. And then he was surprised that they do the same in their memory. How come that they draw the same story, you know? And then he noticed that they are following specific kind of frameworks within the embryo life. So if you take our embryo life, 9 months we live, we develop the fetus in there. So you will see that we start from the life of the plants and slowly develop into the fish, into the animals, and finally human being. You will see all the embryos which are fitting. If you compare embryo of the fish and embryo of the human being, you will see that they are nearly identical at specific stage of the embryo development of human being. So they are corresponding in a way. So we are covering the whole evolution within 9 months within the mother. What a mystery is. The Divine Mother is creating the whole universe within 9 months, pulling out all the resources from the beginning till the end. So within that 9 months, we experienced all the stages of evolution. We were fish, we were animals, we were plants, we were all things. And we are all things now, though we live separate life, but within us, the whole evolution is there. I was joking about the Zhuangzi, who has a very beautiful story on the fish. Most probably I told you this already because it's my favorite. When Zhuangzi with his student walks near the pond, and then fish jumps out of the pond. And he says, "Oh, how happily fish is jumping out of the water." And his student says, "But you are not the fish. You don't know how happily she jumps out of the water." And he looked at him and said, You're not me, so you don't know how I know." So he returned him a favor. But what I want to gather from this, that he knows, we all know how happily fish jumps off the water, because we are fish also. We were fish a few years back in the mother's womb. So we know how nature reacts. We know how animals feel. We know how fish feels, how plants feel. We have everything inbuilt in us. This is the oneness of creation. You know? We have to recover that magical structure of consciousness within us. Relive it, become conscious of all the parts, deeper parts in us, mysterious, of Tvashtar part, of that amoeba first, yeah? Putting consciousness into matter. So, okay, we can stop here for today. And Robin, what do you think? Robin is thoughtful, looking far somewhere.
I was enjoying what you were saying.
All right.
And I'm on mute. Turn yours off. Yeah. How's that?
Right. Very, very. You're spreading all over the space, multiplying yourself.
I was just thinking how you were saying that earlier, that the divine is in everything. If we can really see that, then so many things in our lives would clear up, because everything really becomes our friend. And I love that term, the friendly light. I think that's absolutely beautiful. So then the whole idea of anxiety and fear, these problems that modern society is full of, most of that would disappear if we have this aspect that everything is divine, that we're actually swimming in this divine ocean. Then there's nothing that really is our enemy or that we can be harmed by. And if we take that aspect in our mind, then everything becomes our friend. And if we have no fear, then there's nothing to fear from anybody, nothing to fear from any animals, nothing to fear from any circumstances. And that's a huge, if we can really live that way, then grace will descend on us, and our whole life will be transformed if we can do that. I mean, I'm saying that very lightly right now, but it's a massive change in the way we live, the way we see things, and the way life will treat us.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could do that, grace would definitely interfere, because you become fearless, and then grace is to take charge of you. There's no chance to leave you being fearless there, dying, and then doubting again. No way. But it's very difficult to make the first steps, to keep up with it. You shrink back to the inconscient, to the darker parts in us which are not yet developed. Even if you don't want to, yes, you are not capable of holding onto light all the time. Somewhere in the mind, yes, but not so much in the vital. It will still shrink, not so much in the physical. It will still jump away from the cobra. So there will be, things which one is not in control of yet.
Those are the things that reveal to us where we are. How completely we've been able to manifest that sense in our physical life, in our vital life, in our mental life. And, that's where we have to watch ourselves, and we will reveal to ourselves where we are, where we need to work, where our vulnerabilities are, where our flaws are. And those are the areas where we need to focus. That's what life's for. That's what's wonderful about life. We have the opportunity to do this.
Yeah. And we have Amsha, which will come again and again and again. So you have no chance to run away and disappear some in the darkness, to die away, which would be a very easy way out. You lived your life, you died, and that's it. There's no problem afterwards. No, there will be problems afterwards. A lot of problems. So better solve them now than later. Now you have a chance. We have a choice to work it out. But once we are without the body, we can't change much. We have to wait again for the next body to try again. And then again, we will forget everything and we'll have to remember it. Now we remember that what we are here to do. So
I sometimes wonder, and I'm sure we all do, is how far did we get in our last lifetime? What has caused us to have the awareness that we currently have, the aspirations that we have, and what did we really become aware of in our last lifetime?
it looks like so far away, that last lifetime. I'm more interested in the future. So the future draws me better than the past.
Point.
Vladimir,
Yes.
is it possible you take a session on aspiration?
Aspiration is
Focus on-
fire. you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is fire. It is that very aspiration, the divine aspiration in our physical, vital, mental, constant betterment, constant pushing forward, constant progress. I don't know why we do it, why everyone wants to progress. Nobody wants to stay in their own, slumber. And Mother says at the moment we decide, because we have a free will, to stay in what we achieved, we start regressing. So it's interesting that there is only one choice we have, yes, it's to progress. There
I
is no.
think you said in
Yeah?
the last class, sorry, I think you said in the last class that we are the creation of our past energies. So there is absolutely no choice. It's pushing and pushing.
Right.
I mean, I think it was the last class or class before. So
Right.
everything, to answer Robin's question, everything that we are composed of is made of past energies.
Hmm.
So
Past energy is for pushing forward. But but once it is pushed forward, that pushing forward becomes now energy, in the present energy, and that present energy becomes the moment past energy, which is pushing forward. So in a way, it's a constantly present, immortal among mortals. Yes, it is that flame, which is the past, present, and future. And interestingly, even future, which we think is not yet here, it's already here. It is also pushing forward. We just don't see it. We think it is only past, which is pushing forward. But in that past, the future determined the past energy to push forward. That future is the drive of the past energies forward. So
very, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, in Trikala Drishti, it's all one force, one plan, one vision, which is kind of spelled out in time and space, yes.
So, Vladimir, this is absolutely amazing because just today I was studying for Sankhya, the Dharmani and the Dharma concept, which means that the past, the present the past never really goes away. It just gets absorbed in the Dharmani, which is the original substance or the material. And the energies never really go away, but it manifests in new forms as we go towards the future.
Beautiful.
So,
Beautiful.
Yeah.
and when we talk of dharma and dharmani, dharma essentially means the power to manifest. So that is how the process goes on. It was very interesting, and it's very coincidental that Vladimir just mentioned this. Interesting synchronicity, sort of.
Well, these are the fundamental topics of our life. Yes, we need to know what we are made of and where we are heading at. It's all tuning to their higher knowledge, consciousness, which will help us to see things differently, to act differently, to grow. It's the same fire is growing, yeah? Same aspiration is looking for its outcome. And it brings us, it's a constant ongoing discovery. Truly speaking, we have to be engaged. We cannot really read the books and think that what we read is it. Yeah? We have to discover it ourselves in the books and beyond books. So the books are triggers for our interest. The words, these hymns are triggers. They can't be the formulation, static formulation of the truth. They have to be lived. And then they make sense. All right, let me close with mantra for today. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Anyhow.